couple years later, don't remember exactly how many, that I was living over on the Slanderville Road in the 1740s Cape. It was pretty much the oldest existing structure there. Run down, 7 acres on the river. Hardly a foundation. Most of the houses in those days didn't have foundations, which is why they're not around anymore. And the few that did, the foundations were just a bunch of granite boulders. Man, you did not want to go in that basement. Man, oh man. Nor did you especially want to go in the attic, because that was where Hornpout Phil lived. We called him Hornpout Phil, because all he ever wanted to talk about was fishing hornpout, and how he was going to murder the landlord. I remember one of the first days that we were there, it was about midnight, creaking around upstairs, and he came down, he knocked on the window about midnight, maybe 11:30, thereabouts, and he says, "Mind, this is like the second time we ever met him." He says, "I seen you down by the river. I don't care what you're doing down there. I'm not gonna tell nobody." Thank you, Phil. Okay, we were having a picnic. A couple weeks later, he'd been getting progressively more upset. For some reason, I at some point I went up to his apartment. I don't remember why. The scariest thing about it was that it was neat as a pin. Anyways, he came knocking on the door later, like really late, like 2 in the morning, something like that. He was 3 sheets to the wind. And he's talking about how I will omit the expletives for the sensitive, including my children in the audience, who are all used to hearing their grandma swear, and that's in Serbian, so somehow take some of the sting out of it. He's talking about how he's going to kill the landlord this time. He's threatened him to kick him out. And he said, "Does that so-and-so have any idea how much my truck payments are?" And he said, "If you ever need to get rid of a body, I can do it. I've done it too back in the 70s. They never found nothing." "Thanks, Phil. Do you have a card or something?" We were going to call the police. I mean, that's exactly the kind of thing that people who have done that kind of stuff always talk about, and everybody says, "We thought he was joking." Until they looked in his basement. We're going to call the cops for real and talk to them and say, "There's a guy who's talking about how he killed people back in the 70s and they never found him, and we're thinking maybe you'd be interested." But of course we came back one day from going shopping to find him in the yard with the entire police force of Slanderville shooting stuff. The song's not about Hornpout Phil. I just somehow, when I think about that time and that place, I always think of Phil. This song is about the other things that lived in that house, which had 4 legs. Rodents galore, like you wouldn't believe, or you probably would actually. Sometimes when I do this in other places, other parts of the country, like the Southwest, you know, they're thinking, "Oh, rattlesnakes." Mice. 12 kinds of mice. How many kinds of mice do you have? We should take a vote here. Putney, represent. Bernardston, you got the same kind? They're all related, I think. Local mice. The cute ones with the black that give you the Honda virus that makes you throw up your brain. We had those. We had the little gray field mice. We had rat-looking things in the basement, like big things. We, one time, and I kid you not, went into the kitchen in the morning, and there was, on the kitchen floor, a mole. M-O-L-E, mole.
Yeah.
That kind, not usually indoor. Lots of rodents in this house. We used to drive them across the river let them out at the same spot. I just think they found their way back. Eventually we gave up. And I remember sitting there. I know when this was, but I was reminded because our cousin Georgitsa said it was March of '99. She remembers because it's when they were bombing Arandjalovac. It was the, you could play a little party game. What was the last time a major European capital was bombed, and by whom? They were bombing Arandjalovac, and I remember watching Christiana Manpour on CNN and Madeleine Albright because we had free cable thanks to Phil, who had somehow rigged it up. At what cost, I wouldn't want to know. But she reminded me when that was. I think it was the 12th of March in '99. We were watching the bombs fall in Arandjalovac. And this feeling of eyes. If you ever had that at home, you just feel like, man, there's something looking at me. And we turn around and be like, you see like this little movement. And at some point I remember looking and seeing like out of the corner of my eye, seeing like this gray movement. I was like, did a mouse just go into my stereo speaker? Because I had, this was, 99, I had like I think it was like a circa 1995 Tiegger triple CD player, double cassette dubbing thing. If you remember those, and the speakers in those things for some reason had large elaborate holes in them that were supposed to look high tech. It was like they was to enhance the bass system 2000 or something. And I could have sworn I went in there, and I didn't want to, pick it up and look in because like a trapped rodent that close to your eye, etc. Not what I was, So I thought, okay, I'll play some music and see if I'm deluded about that. So I remember I had 3 CDs on there because it had the 3 CDs, and one feature which I never quite understood, which was a remote button for the CD player that would open the CD tray, remote from the other side of the room, because I had Mississippi Fred McDowell's Levy Camp Blues or Camp Levy Blues, something. It's the Blue album. I had Black Flag Damage, and I had A.R. Rahman's first big Hindi film hit of his life, which was Dil Se, which came about 6 months earlier. If you'll remember, on the top of the train going through Rajasthan. You know what I'm talking about. So I started playing that. Started out quiet and nothing. Turn it up. Nothing. Finally, there's that part where the guitar comes in and it goes, and I see this gray streak like flying out of the speaker. Mice, they own that old New England home. I even found a nest of shredded shaped on music and insulation in my stereo. Some weeks, not long after, I was dubbing something for a friend at low volume and high speed. When lost in thought, I forgot, and when the furnace cycled off, from sudden silence, there was a quiet chirping.
Partner.